anglers, welcome into this episode of the 8 Steps. I'm Captain Lance Valentine. We are in the Captain's Cafe again. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to take our 8-step formula and talk about midwinter ice fishing with one of my good buddies, Captain Mark Pieionzek. So, before we get rolling though, let's run down what the 8 steps actually are so we know the format we're using to teach today. They are very simply. Step number 1 is be in the right location. Step number 2, be in the right depth of water. Step number 3, be at the right depth with your lure. Step number 4 is lure speed. 5 is lure size. 6, lure shape. 7, lure action. 8, lure color. So we're going to use that 8-step formula. That's our foundation here at Teaching Fishing. And we are going to talk about midwinter ice fishing for walleye with my friend Mark Pieniozek. Good to have you here. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to finally get into winter a little bit.
It is. It's one of the seasons I actually look forward to.
I know you do. Talk a little bit about how you grew up just a stone's throw away from Saginaw Bay. How long have you been ice fishing that bay?
54 years since I was 5 years old.
Wow. You don't look that old. You don't look a day over 60.
Right. That's because I'm not there yet.
And now it's become a big part of your business, your guide business. You do a lot of trips on Saginaw Bay.
It actually has been. It's probably at least 20-25% of my business is ice fishing.
Have you seen a big increase in ice fishing the last couple of years with customers?
Yes, it's huge. A lot of people like to get out on the water, which and a lot of people don't have the equipment for it. That's the biggest thing that I'm able to provide for.
And we'll talk about that in our rigging section. And don't forget, folks, if you've got a question for Mark, be sure to just type it in here, and we will make sure that we ask him when we get into our extra credit session here. All right, let's get going. Let's talk about our first 3 steps that we call above the line or the where: location, depth of water, and lure depth. Talking a little bit in general, what kind of location area are we looking for in midwinter to chase these walleyes?
Midwinter for ice fishing, I'm looking for slight breaks, drop-offs, point, anything that's going to hold fish. Kind of like the same thing in the summer.
Okay.
It's the same thing in the winter, other than the fact they're going to hold in tighter groups, usually in the winter, than they do in the summer.
Is the basin area a big deal? You're looking for structure into a basin, or will these fish still be on flats too?
They are all over the place, depending on the time of day that you're fishing.
So let's talk about that. How does your location change throughout the day?
Usually we'll start in shallower,
okay.
16 to 18 feet, and try to hit them on the way. They'll come in, they roam in, ambush bait fish, and then roam back out during the day. So we try to start in closer and then work our way out during the day. And then in the evening, we'll come back into shallower water.
When those fish are middle of the day, are they bait fish oriented, or do they just go down and kind of rest and they kind of come back to the bait to feed?
I don't think these fish rest. I think they're travelers or roamers. They're looking for food.
See, and I think that's please expound on that a little bit, because I think that's a big misconception about ice fishing. These fish are just, they're cold, they're lethargic. You spend a lot of time with a camera, you spend a lot of time on the water. These fish are moving.
They are moving, and they move long distances. They'll move 3 to 8 miles a day, actually in the morning and the afternoon. So it's not that big of a deal for them to be out by what we call 1 and 2 out by the river channel, the mouth, and then work their way back into the inner areas of the bay that hold fish. So there are areas around the cigar area and other areas like that will attract fish because bait fish are going to be there.
So do you see these fish moving more vertically or horizontally? Are they making these long migrations every day, or does that depend on kind of the weather?
Every day.
Really?
Every day they'll start out deep, and then they'll work their way in at night. Then they'll spend their night in shallower water. And if you stay out all night, which I don't recommend for the Saginaw Bay, but you can catch fish all night. I've done it.
Wow.
I don't recommend people doing it, but you can do it because those fish will be in shallower.
So our daytime fishing, what depth are we looking at to ambush those fish when they're feeding, and then what depths are we looking for when they kind of go rest? Just in general. So
in general, I'll go from 15 to 18 feet early and late.
Okay.
And then during the day, I will go out to 20 plus feet of water. Obviously the bay doesn't get that deep, but we're looking at, anywhere from 22 to 28 feet of water.
So out in the middle of the basin.
Right, so out in the middle, so we can pick away at them all day.
Okay.
That's the key to that.
And we'll talk in the rigging about being mobile.
Yep.
So let's talk about this. You've got fish that are feeding in the morning, fish that are kind of moving or a little less active in the afternoon and feeding again. Where do you put your lures? Do you adjust? Step number 3 is the depth of the lure based on the fish. Do you adjust where that is at different times of the day?
Usually we're jigging on bottom or within a foot of bottom.
Okay.
That's where I like to jig. I like to bounce a lot of lures off the bottom, creating a little silt, makes it look like a wounded bait fish. But we'll also set up some dead sticks. I'll set up dead sticks on just with a treble hook back through the dorsal fin and with a bobber on it with about 2 feet of loose line so they can grab that bobber and take it down. And I will put that anywhere from 2 feet to 5 feet off the bottom.
Okay. So maybe looking for those fish that are a little higher, moving around a little bit, and a little more aggressive.
Well, obviously, as you know, above
is better than below.
you can't catch them if you're below.
Above is better than below, and that's important because in our 8 steps, the above, the where is a lot more important than the below. So, all right, basin areas, we're going to move based on the fish in the morning and the afternoon. They're going to be feeding basin areas in the afternoon, and then we want to keep our lures close to the bottom where these fish are. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Captain Mark to talk about below the line, how to catch these fish. Warrior Lures, custom designed and painted spoons, blades, and crankbaits for any species of fish. Check out the complete line of Warrior products, including the new Warrior XL Flutter Spoon, online or at your local tackle retailer. Proudly made in Michigan. TRAXSTECH Fishing Systems, manufacturer of high-quality mounting track, rod holders, electronics mounts, downriggers, and fishing accessories. Any angler, any species, any boat. TRAXSTECH Fishing Systems, proudly made in Michigan. Rytech Marine, makers of custom-designed transducer mounts and gimbal brackets. Great sonar performance starts with a quality transducer mount, and Rytech has a mounting option for any brand on any boat. Rytech Marine, making life a little easier on the water. Worldwide Marine Insurance. Don't get caught with a loss to find out you have the wrong insurance for your boat and fishing gear. Contact Bob Llewellyn today for a free checkup of your current coverage. Worldwide Marine Insurance. Anglers insuring anglers. Welcome back, folks, to the 8 Steps. I'm talking with my good friend Mark Pieionzek from Real Fishing LLC, right?
Correct.
Who does both open water and what we're talking about today, ice fishing charters on Saginaw Bay, and loves to ice fish.
I do.
Yeah, I know you do.
It's jigging.
It is jigging, but it's jigging sitting on a bucket, so I don't know.
And in a hula hoop. It's only 3 feet around. That's it. That's all you got. You're not moving. You're not going
You're not
anywhere.
moving. You're just kind of jigging. Now, if you do see the bottom get different on your sonar, you might want to look outside your shanty.
Yes.
Right? You should never see it drop off when you're ice fishing.
If you're moving, you're in trouble. If you start seeing GPS speed, you better get out of there.
You better get out of there, right. All right, let's kind of pick up our discussion. We talked earlier about where these fish are located. Some great information there. Let's talk about how to catch them, what we call below the line, or the WAT, the bottom 5 steps, which are lure speed, lure size, lure shape, lure action, and lure color. So obviously, you know, we're not trolling or casting. We are jigging. So when we talk about speed, let's kind of apply it to how your jigging motion is, and how do you change that based on location, time of day, and activity of fish? Kind of how does your jigging motion work?
I am actually a very aggressive jigger. So the jigging wraps and stuff like that I don't use because they get tangled up in my line. So I'm very aggressive, bouncing bottom. I don't let the thing set there very long. So I'm very aggressive moving it up and down. The one thing I will do is if the fish if they come in, I watch them on the graph, and if they don't get attracted to that and hit it right away, then I'll start changing things up and try to chase them or get them to bite. And to the point of actually slow reeling my reel up and actually catching fish, which is, I know some people are going to find this very hard to believe, but a foot under the ice.
They'll actually follow the lure.
They will follow the lure right up. They don't always, but if you can get them to follow and they keep coming up, we keep bringing it up. Just slow, very, very slow, and you'll watch them and they'll be right under the ice and they'll hit.
So obviously, not just knowing you're fishing where the fish are and how deep the fish are, but electronics play a huge part in this.
They are, for ice fishing, it's unbelievably huge because the reason I like to use a graph over a camera is the fact that sometimes we'll get fish that are 3 to 5 feet off the bottom, and if you have a camera, you can't see it. Yep. So, and then a lot of times we will catch fish or hook them, get them halfway up, and they get off. So on the graph, they will just sit there. If you have a camera, you're not going to see it. So I will literally stop reeling, drop it right down, and catch them again. Probably 90% of the time, yes.
Do you see fish moving in and out? Let me phrase it this way. Are you looking for a spot where there's lots of fish when you first set up a hole, or are you kind of going on gut instinct, some records, some idea of where they should be, and you kind of give it an hour and let those fish kind of work their way to you?
So basically, it's hard with the ice fishing thing because you can't go out and sonar them and graph them. You're not doing that.
Right.
So we're going off of, I've been keeping records now since 1978.
Stone tablets.
Right, chiseling them out in stone. So I've been keeping records for a long time. So if you really keep track of your records and do a good job with it, you'll find that those fish are usually around those same areas about that same time because it's bait fish and water temp and all those things play into it, and they're usually there. Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
There's a great discussion. We have years, obviously we're here in Michigan, and we have years where we have really early ice and a lot of ice this time of year. We have years where we have really late winters and a little bit of ice. Looking at your records, do you see that those fish are in the same spots regardless of ice conditions? Or do you see maybe some years when the winter's early or late, they move a little different and you get 1 or 2 weeks behind?
They will be, depending, you're right, they will be a little different sometimes within a week or two, depending on the weather patterns. Just like summer patterns are not always, they don't always start on June 2nd. Right. Sometimes it's June 13th, and sometimes it's May 24th. So that's the whole key, is to try to figure out what's going on and refer back to those records of those times of years that if you do your record keeping correctly, you'll find those years, and you just go back and you'll find them.
All right, so let's go into lures now. Size, shape, action. What are you kind of looking for? What's kind of your go-to there on Saginaw Bay? Yeah.
I can't look in the eye and tell you that I have a go-to lure that I'm going to go out and use every time. What I usually do with groups of guys, we'll all use different lures, styles of lures that flutter slowly, others that will drop quicker.
So you're doing a lot of your experiment with the action of the lure.
Yes, it's more action than size. I mean, we do have different sizes, don't get me wrong. I have some different sizes, but it's mainly the flutter action. Does it drop fast? Is it a slow wobble? Things like that nature. Those are more important to me than anything. And a lot of the new body baits that are out right now are unbelievable. It's phenomenal.
We're going to talk more in detail about those when we get over to the workshop and talk about rigging. Color. Are you a big color guy? Is it more flash than color? Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Color can be extremely important jigging because you're not moving. So those fish have a chance to come in and look, see if it's something they like or don't like. Okay. So color can be huge from hour to hour. I go through probably while we're out fishing, and if we're struggling to catch fish, we're marking fish, but we can't catch them. We'll be switching lures sometimes every 5 to 10 minutes. If I see fish come in and I can't get them to bite, we'll switch it up.
Okay, real quick, live bait, yes or no?
Yes.
Tip with like a minnow head or a piece of minnow?
It could be the whole minnow. Okay. It could be the head of the minnow. It could be perch minnows.
Whatever you got. Do you do it all the time?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to talk more about all that in the rigging. Stay tuned. We're going to go over to the workshop and talk about how Mark gets rigged up to catch these Saginaw Bay wintertime walleye. Warrior Lures, custom designed and painted spoons, blades, and crankbaits for any species of fish. Check out the complete line of Warrior products, including the new Warrior XL Flutter Spoon, online or at your local tackle retailer. Proudly made in Michigan. TRAXSTECH Fishing Systems, manufacturer of high-quality mounting track, rod holders, electronics mounts, downriggers, and fishing accessories. Any angler, any species, any boat. TRAXSTECH Fishing Systems, proudly made in Michigan. Rytech Marine, makers of custom-designed transducer mounts and gimbal brackets. Great sonar performance starts with a quality transducer mount, and Rytech has a mounting option for any brand on any boat. Rytech Marine, making life a little easier on the water. Worldwide Marine Insurance. Don't get caught with a loss to find out you have the wrong insurance for your boat and fishing gear. Contact Bob Llewellyn today for a free checkup of your current coverage. Worldwide Marine Insurance. Anglers insuring anglers. Fishhawk Electronics, providing lure speed and water temperature at any depth. Featuring hardwired models X4 and X4D and the new portable X2, anglers can have the Fishhawk advantage anywhere they fish. Trolling without a fishhawk is simply called boating. MACK'S Lure, the original since 1969. Catch more fish with the wedding ring spinner, smile blade, double D Dodger, flashlight attractor, and more. MACK'S Lures, a legacy of innovation for 50 years. Macklin Heating and Cooling, experts in the installation, maintenance, and service of home comfort systems. Family owned and operated in mid-Michigan for 50 years, Macklin Heating and Cooling. where your comfort matters to us.
Procure Bait Scents, manufacturer of high-quality bait scents, cures, and dyes. Made with whole fresh bait, Procure scents perfectly mimic what fish eat every day. Procure, helping anglers worldwide catch more big fish.
Welcome back to the 8 Steps. We are here with my good friend Captain Mark Pieionzek from Real Fishing LLC, and we are talking about midwinter Saginaw Bay, well, midwinter walleye ice fishing period. Obviously, you fish on Saginaw Bay. So let's talk a little bit about rigging. We've got to really kind of dig in. You got some really cool stuff here. First, though, let's just spend 30 seconds talking about something you absolutely have to have if you're going to go ice fishing.
One of the main tools is ice picks. I can't stress it enough to anybody about ice fishing is being safe. And these are this pair actually saved my life here about 5 years ago. If you ever venture out on the ice, I don't care if it's a pond in your backyard, whatever the case is, always carry them.
There you go. All right, let's talk a little bit about the rigging here. You got 2 different rods here. Kind of go through each one of those and what you've got, what kind of line you got on there, and what you're doing with them.
So basically, I usually run about a 10-pound test on most of my ice fishing stuff. I actually use a swivel to change lures with. I know a lot of people have different ways to do it. I just do it like this because it's simple. Okay. And when we're on the ice, your fingers get cold. Simple is best. So I just run a straight 10-pound. I usually use a smoke line. Trilene XT is usually what I use.
So you're using mono, not braid?
I use mono, straight mono, because I don't like, most of the braids freeze.
Yeah.
And as I spend a lot of time outside the shanty, and my guys are inside, and I spend a lot of time out fishing personally, and then inside while I'm teaching the guys. And while you're doing that, if it freezes up, you're done. Okay. You can't fish. So they are coming out with some new ice braids. I just haven't found one that I liked. So I'm a straight mono guy. I tie a swivel right to it. And the key here is just having a nice reel. I don't use big reels. I'm like a 500,000. That's what I like to keep it because it's light.
But you want something big enough that the line doesn't coil, especially on the ice.
Correct. And then I just like a rod that has a nice tip, but a good backbone on it. So a softer tip, but a good backbone. That to me is important to be able to set that hook while you're jigging. You feel and bite, and you set the hook. So that's what I like about these rods and reels that I have.
What kind of rod are we fishing there?
This is a handmade one that a buddy of mine made for me, so there's really not a name for this one. I'd like to say there is, but it has titanium eyes and some stuff like that that's a little different than mainstream.
Typical, okay.
And then I have a St. Croix here that I also use, and that's also pretty much the same reel. Same setup with the swivel. This swivel is like 5 times bigger than what I probably really should have on here, but it's for show. So that's what we have on here, and the hooks are sharp, obviously, because I can't get it out. But it's basically the same thing that I use, and about the same length. It's probably about a 28, 29 inch, but you can see the same thing, softer tip, and good backbone. Nice backbone. Yep.
All right, let's talk about some lures you got here. You basically got them divided. I'm going to call it 3 different categories. We got just some plain old jigs, some spoons, and some body baits. Talk about the jigs real quick, kind of what you're doing with those.
All right, with the jigs, obviously you're just getting a straight drop. There's not going to be any flutter to them, just a straight drop. Sometimes the walleye prefer just a straight drop, no flutter. So a lot of times we'll use your jigs, excuse me, and we just put the whole minnow on, and then we'll run a stinger right off of it. Okay.
So just like you try river jigging.
It is exactly the same thing. We're pounding bottom, we're hitting that, bringing that silt up, trying to draw the fish in. So a lot of times we'll use things like that. Other times we'll use some...
Go to the spoons, yeah.
Yeah, we'll use some heavier spoons. There's heavier spoons that will drop down faster. They have a wobble. They have a tendency to wobble like this on the way down. Then we have a heavier spoon, a Swedish pimple, which is just going to drop faster. It does have a wobble, but it's a fast drop. And then we have like a Michigan Stinger spoon, which is actually one I use in the summer. And this has a very slow wobble. So the whole key is trying to match something that the fish are going to like. With that. And then I have a couple, this is old school stuff that has worked for me over in the past, and the old Daredevil. I'll be honest with you, I've caught a lot of fish with it.
So we've got different,
done really well.
So your different shapes get different fall rates.
Correct.
And then last but not least, real quick,
your
favorite.
Right. So the chubby darter, which I've been using a lot, and then the Rapala has one out too. And these things I don't use any minnows with at all.
Okay.
So it's just straight up the lure, and we just jig them, and you can jig them very aggressively because there's no minnows on them, so you can be very aggressive.
So when you're buying your stocking your tackle box, make sure you've got lots of different stuff that falls a little bit different before you worry about getting one thing a lot of colors.
Correct.
All right, we'll be right back with some extra credit. We're going to ask Mark some of your questions. Fishhawk Electronics, providing lure speed and water temperature at any depth. Featuring hardwired models X4 and X4D and the new portable X2, anglers can have the Fishhawk advantage anywhere they fish. Trolling without a Fishhawk is simply called boating. MACK'S Lure, the original since 1969. Catch more fish with the wedding ring spinner, smile blade, double D Dodger, flashlight attractor, and more. MACK'S Lures, a legacy of innovation for 50 years. Macklin Heating and Cooling, experts in the installation, maintenance, and service of home comfort systems. Family owned and operated in mid-Michigan for 50 years, Macklin Heating and Cooling, where your comfort matters to us.
Procure Bait Sense, manufacturer of high-quality bait scents, cures, and dyes. Made with whole fresh bait, Procure scents perfectly mimic what fish eat every day. Procure, helping anglers worldwide catch more big fish.
Welcome back to Extra Credit here on this episode of 8 Steps. I'm Captain Lance Valentine, still here with my good friend Mark Pieionzek, Captain Mark Pieionzek.
Yep.
We are talking about midwinter walleye jigging.
Yep.
Now, obviously, you do Saginaw Bay, so we're at the Extra Credit section where people can actually ask you questions. But before we go, we didn't get a chance to, and the rigging part, we kind of got cut a little short. Let's go back and talk a little bit about your favorite baits. I know that chubby darter is one of your favorites.
It is. So the nice thing about the body baits is the fact that we don't need to use minnows.
Okay.
So, and I can jig aggressively with it. It actually has a slow rate of fall, but you can jig very aggressively with it, and they drop down, and you can be very aggressive, pound bottom with them, and the whole deal. So that's what I really like about the new body baits. Doesn't have to be necessarily this particular one, but they are very, very good, and I can fish very aggressive with them.
So unlike a jigging wrap or that style bait that actually kind of makes a loop, you got to slowly drop that. This one you can really rip.
I can, and that's what I like about it over something really heavy.
Oh, nice. All right, we got a few questions here. What type of sonar do you use? Do you use a flasher or do you use an LCD?
I am a flasher guy, 100%. I've tried other models, I've tried other things, and the flasher is, for me, is instant.
Okay.
So I can see the fish. You have to, dial them in a little bit, just like any graph. But once you dial them in and use them, I've been using them since they've come out. I trust them. I love them. I like it over the camera. I like it over anything.
So if you're, let me ask you this: if you're in kind of a shanty situation, a big shanty, you've got multiple holes. Are you running one sonar in, or do you have one in each hole, or are you kind of?
I usually run two because they do have a blocker on there.
Right.
So I'll run two, one for my client, one for myself, so we can see each other jigging separately. Okay. I don't like to put it in the middle and see both of them going at the, because you don't know whose is whose on a Vex. So I like to keep it one in each hole.
Perfect. This is a great question. What type of auger do you use?
I'm an ion user. I used to be gassed forever, but it's kind of nice not to have to haul gas around. The battery styles are lighter. They're easier to use. You don't have to worry about stuff firing them up or anything, but what I do is I carry an extra battery. I carry all my batteries in a little heated box, and I use hand warmers. I crush them up and drop them in there so they stay warm, and because that's the biggest issue you have with batteries is cold weather. So
how big a hole you cutting?
I use an 8-inch auger. I know guys use 10s and 8s, but I use 8. I think it's very simple. It works.
How many holes can you cut with 2 good batteries?
Hundreds all day.
I can't. I gotta get on the ice and see that because I have a hard time believing that. But
I did 2 when they first came out. It was a struggle for me. I didn't get one right away because I wanted to see how they worked before. But I really like them. They're light. They're easy to carry around, and they're extremely efficient.
Nice. What species of minnow, does that really matter?
No, I know a lot of guys are into blues and grays and whatever else they can find, but when we're jigging, we're basically just using the head, unless we're using a regular jig, then we'll use the whole minnow, but as a rule, we're just using the head, or I like to use perch minnows. I use 2 on one on each hook and leave 1 hook bare. It works. So if you guys get in a bind where you're not catching fish on what everyone else is using, the head, try perch minnows.
So on the dead stick or the jig, you're going to move a little bit slower. You're using a full minnow on here?
I am. So the dead stick, we'll just use the treble hook, and we'll hook that minnow up right behind the dorsal fin with a bobber. I use a bobber and some line, extra line, so it can take the bobber and take the lure down without feeling any resistance.
Does time of day affect how you jig?
Time of day doesn't, but the fish does. So I jig very aggressively. I'm a very aggressive jigger to draw fish in. I get a lot of hits. I miss a lot of fish, but I catch a lot of fish. But if the fish comes in, I can see on the flasher that he's not wanting to hit. I'll slow down and try different things.
So you're actively, aggressively jigging to attract, and you're watching your sonar to see how they react to that, and then using different motions to maybe trigger a bite.
Correct. Yep.
All right, before we go, let's talk about something that's absolutely critical.
Do not go on the ice without ice picks. This pair actually saved my life here 4 years ago. So I suggest, I don't care if you go on your mom's pond, your grandma's pond, the Saginaw Bay, wherever you go, have yourself a set of ice picks because they can save your life.
Perfect. Jig aggressive, be where the fish are, stay safe. Mark, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Someone wants to get a hold of you real fast on your Facebook page. What is your Facebook page?
My Facebook page is Mark at Real Fishing, Saginaw Bay.
All right, thanks for taking the time to come down. I really appreciate it. Yep. All right, we've got a great giveaway for anybody that's watching on all the 8-step shows. We like to give away a little swag bag for people who share this video. So watch the video, share it to your fishing friends, and we're going to give away, because we are talking to Mark here about ice fishing, we've got a nice little prize package full of ice fishing gear. Mark's been kind enough to get us a couple of chubby darters to put in there, and we've got some other great ice fishing products coming from Clam to help you catch more fish next time you're out on the ice. Remember to like and follow the Teachin' Fishin' Facebook page so you can stay up with everything we're doing. And we've got an Instagram, Teachin' Fishin' on Instagram. Please check that out and follow us there. We've also got a great website, teachinfishin.com. All the information you need. It's constantly updated. Anything you need to help you catch more fish is there. Big thank you again to my friend Captain Mark, the whole crew, you for watching, our sponsors, and we'll be back with the next episode where we dig in depth into how deep to put your lure. I'm Captain Lance Valentine. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the 8 Steps.